I don't even know how to start this. Like, what do I even say? Hey guys, sorry I've been gone for so long. My mental health has been in the trash, and here's all the reasons why I haven't been able to post. Hello and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. You are in for a very wild ride, and hopefully this is not your first video that you're watching of mine, because it's a lot, so you might want to grab a glass of wine if you're of age. If you're not, grab a juice and get nice and comfy because we have a lot of heavy things to talk about. I just want to quickly preface this video by saying I am in no way asking for sympathy or wanting anyone to feel sorry for me. I'm not even blaming the people that I'm about to mention in this video for why I haven't posted on YouTube. Like, that is just so petty to me. I just want you guys to have a better understanding of where my head has been at, because I constantly get comments like,
"Girl, where are your vlogs? Where are your YouTube videos? We miss you."
And I too have missed you guys so much. YouTube to me is a visual diary of my life. Dr. Phil wants to call it oversharing, then I'm this oversharer. I don't only create these videos for you, but I also create them for myself, and it's just really fun to look back on all the memories I've made over the years and just see how much I've grown and I've changed. And that's why I want to pick back up where I left off. But I also feel like it would be kind of unfair to go missing for like 6 months to a year and then just upload a vlog like I did this week and be like, okay, I'm back. Do you guys still love me? No, like, I kind of want to fill in the gaps so we can start fresh. And honestly, I want to get some of these questions that you guys have been asking out of the way so I don't have to address them anymore, because I get the same ones over and over and over again. So let's get into it. Where the have I been? This story goes back 2.5 years ago when I moved into my second apartment. Upgrading from a 1-bedroom to a 2 was a big deal for me. I have an empty apartment tour up on this channel. Like, I was crying in the video. I really felt like I earned this new place. Fell in love with it the second I saw it. I was like, this is it. Like, this is the perfect space for me. I spend so much time at home. I would definitely consider myself more of a home. No, I'm very much. I'm borderline recluse. I'm a recluse. I don't like to leave my house. That's something that I am working on. I also work from home, so this new apartment was the answer to my prayers because I had all the space in the world. Okay, you could not tell me nothing. I was so happy when I got this apartment. And then about 5 days in, I'm not even kidding, I moved in on a Saturday. It was that Tuesday, so 4 days in, I was sitting in my living room just taking it all in. Then my whole apartment started to shake because my neighbor started playing music. In that moment, I was like, oh, this is new. My last apartment, I didn't hear anybody for 3 years. Like, it got scary sometimes because I thought I was living in a real life Truman Show. I could have sworn I was living in a simulation. Like, this is not real. I don't hear neighbors. I was scared at night living by myself. Definitely heard my neighbor that Tuesday. But then I didn't think much of it until I started to realize that she was somebody that liked to have a lot of parties, and she would have them constantly. And by constantly, I don't mean every weekend, I mean multiple times a week. And let me just say this, okay? I know I live in an apartment building. I know that I'm gonna hear people, right? That's just a part of living in a building. You share walls with your neighbors. It's going to happen, but I also feel like there has to be some type of mutual respect between you and your neighbors. Like, not having a banger on a Tuesday night at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I just feel like that's like common courtesy, because if you do want to do that, go get a house, right? And if I want to complain about every time I hear a mosquito fart, I should also get a house. But that wasn't my issue, right? I don't care if you make noise. I don't care if you even have parties on the weekends, but girl, I work during the week. I work. I gotta make this money, honey. And this continued for 2 years. Well, almost 2 years. I didn't say anything. Well, I didn't say anything to management for 1.5 years. I did say something to her because after, I think I was only in my apartment for a couple of weeks, maybe not even 2 weeks, when I bumped into her in the parking garage, we started talking in the elevator, and then we realized that we were walking down the same hallway, and that's when I found out she was my neighbor. She invited me and my boyfriend at the time, Nelson, over for drinks, and she seemed like a very, very sweet girl. We started hanging out a little bit after that, and that's when it kind of came up in conversation. We were with another mutual friend who also lives in the building. I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I remember being like, oh my gosh, this is my time to bring up the noise because I can't stand it anymore. And she was like, she said something like, oh, like, I never hear my neighbors or something like that. I'm like, oh, like I hear you. Just putting it out there. My bedroom shares a wall with your kitchen / dining room. And she was like, oh my God, I thought there was a hallway separating us. And I'm like, no, that's not how layouts work in apartments, unfortunately. Our apartments meet in the middle. Then she was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And I'm like, girl, it's all good. And then she was quiet for some time after that. But then I was doing a lot of traveling, and I don't know if she took that as her green light to start having these bangers again. And then it got really, really bad. And by really bad, I mean, I would be voice noting my best friend. Steph would be like, who's in your apartment right now? Do you have people over? And I'm like, no, it's my neighbor. Like, you could hear full-blown conversations. I could name her entire Spotify playlist. It was bad. And she's like, oh my God, like it sounds like there's somebody in your apartment. And I'm like, I know. And because I had already had a conversation with her about the noise, and at this point, after a year and a half, like we weren't even cool anymore, but I didn't say anything to management for an entire year and a half until one night it was so bad. I was up all night crying, because at this point I felt like I hadn't slept in a year and a half. I was oversleeping in the morning because I would be woken up multiple times throughout the night. My work was being affected. Like I wasn't putting out as much content as I normally did. And I've been talking about this for so long. Like I have so many other things I want to talk about. I wound up calling management one morning and crying, and instantly they were like, what happened to Nala? Is she okay? That's how bad I was crying. But really it was just a year and a half of just like torture. I love my management in this building, and it makes me so sad to even think about ever moving out because they are so great and they handle everything so quickly. They handled it right away. And the reason why it took so long to say something was because I didn't want drama with my neighbor. Like I don't want drama with anybody, especially where I live. Like I'm at the stage in my life where I just want peace, and I knew that it would turn into something that it definitely didn't need to. So I was like, you know, I'll just wait until she moves out. She's supposed to be moving to Miami. You know, we'll just wait a few months and she'll be gone. And also because I had already said something to her, I feel like at that point it's out of my hands. You know, I'd already said something to you. I shouldn't even have to say anything to you to begin with, but because I had already done that, I felt like the only thing that I really could do is talk to management. I pay a lot of money for rent. You know, the least I can get is some peace and quiet and some good quality sleep. And I wasn't getting that for so long, and it was really messing with my mental health. So after I finally said something, it just felt like such a sigh of relief. She did get quiet again after that, started up again, and then there were a lot more issues involved. And this could be an entire story time in and of itself, which is why I'm gonna stop this here, because I've already been talking about it too much. I've already given it too much life. Long story short, she wound up moving out. I moved into a new unit. It was like a win-win, you know? She also had her friends over for a last shebang, and in the elevator on my way up to my apartment, some girls came in and they were talking about how like she was already at the pool, yada yada yada. They leave the elevator, and as the doors are closing, one of them goes, that bitch in the black is a bird. I look to my left and I look to my right, and nobody in this elevator wearing black except for me. That's crazy though. That really is crazy. And I think about this all the time. The people that feel so strongly about me, how does it feel to know that you feel so strongly about me and I have no idea who you are? Couldn't tell you from a can of paint. But hey, moving on. The move out / move in happened in September. A week before I was moving, my dad's mother passed away, my grandmother. And I hate to say it like this, but because I was never close with her, not only was I never close with her, I never met her, it really wasn't a loss for me, but my dad definitely took it very hard. And at this point, I had not spoken to my father in almost 8 years. So when he reached out to my sister and asked her if I would be interested in meeting for breakfast, I was very, very apprehensive. But because he just lost his mother, not only did I think it would be insensitive for me to not meet him, I also figured that during this time of loss, it was kind of like an eye-opening, awakening type of situation where he really just wanted to make amends with me because life is so short, and he didn't want, you know, either one of us to pass without, you know, ever speaking to each other again. I did agree to meet with him under one circumstance, and that was if my mom could come as well. I just did not feel comfortable sitting at a table with him and my sister. At this point, my sister and I hadn't spoken in almost a year, so it was a very awkward and uncomfortable situation for me, and I just wanted somebody who I could just lean on because I knew I just couldn't handle doing it by myself. The breakfast did not go well at all. There's something about having a narcissistic, abusive parent that no matter how old you get, you will always feel like a child in their presence. And that's exactly how I felt at that breakfast table. The way he was badgering me about my life, it wasn't like he was inquiring or wanted to know more. He basically put me down with everything that he said or wanted to bring up. I mean, like everything from my looks to my career to I'm not successful if I don't have a house. And I'm just like, if only you knew what it was like. And I caught myself explaining myself to him and just explaining what the housing market looks like right now. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't owe you any explanation. If I don't have a house, I don't have a house. Like, does that make me a bad person? Why can't you just accept me for who I am? I live in a beautiful apartment. I've made a name for myself. When will you ever be proud of me? I'm just so over this. I wound up walking out on the breakfast, but that triggered an autoimmune response. I'm telling you, this has been like a domino effect over the past couple years. It triggered an autoimmune response and I was diagnosed with psoriasis shortly after, which my doctor explained, or my dermatologist explained to me, can be triggered by stress. And that day alone, I was so distraught. I was voice noting Steph on the way home. I'm pretty sure I called her too. No, I definitely called her and I was unintelligible. Like you could not make out what I was screaming, crying because I had once again put myself in a position to be let down by my father. Moving on to my psoriasis. It's been very difficult to live with, something I've definitely had to be patient with. I've tried numerous medications, topicals, creams, lotions. Every time I go to the dermatologist, it's like 100 injections into my scalp. At one point, just touching my scalp, it felt like the top of a creme brulee. I'm sorry if this is like TMI, but it would only get worse with stress. So I'm currently dealing with that. I am on the mend. I'll have psoriasis forever though. There's no cure for psoriasis, but there's ways to treat it. So I'm finally seeing some good results from the new medication. So I'm very, very happy about that. And one thing about my camera is it's gonna die. Not that you guys noticed. I have literally had to let it cool down and charge for like 30 minutes, but I'm back now. We're gonna bounce around a lot in this story time because everything kind of happened at the same time. So going back to July, something happy that happened to me was I got a puppy and she just so happened to run into the room now. As I said that, you want to say hi, Mimi? No? Okay. That's fine too. That's fine too. Yeah. In July, before I knew that my neighbor was moving out, I was actually looking for apartments because there was no way that I would be able to stay living next to her. I mean, like I said, I wasn't sleeping. My mental health was really poor because of it. And me and my mom were going on all these apartment tours in the area and there was just nothing that I even remotely like. Like this place has been my home for many reasons. Like I love the building, I love the staff, I love management. This is where I've lived for going on 6 years. Am I really gonna let somebody run me out of my building? No. But believe it or not, I don't like confrontation, especially where I live. So I was like, you know what, the only thing I feel like I can really do is up and move. So me and my mom looked at a ton of places. Nothing felt like home. And after looking at the last place, I was like, you know what? I just have to renew my lease and hope that this gets resolved soon and that she moves out because it was still like very much so up in the air at this point. And I'll never forget it. We were sitting at PF Chang's after our last tour and my mom was like, you should get a dog. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I should get a dog? Like I already have Nala. She's like, no, I think you should get a dog. And I'm like, all right, let's just look for funsies, you know? And that's how Mila came into my life. I met Mila before I actually adopted her and I was just like gravitated towards her. She was so shy and quiet. I was like, this is my kind of dog. But I definitely struggled with the adjustment of having a new puppy, especially having a new puppy with a senior dog. It was a struggle. And there were so many times that I really thought if I should give Mila to my mom. And that was more so because she was like nipping at Nala. I felt like a terrible dog mom because Nala is used to a quiet house. She's an elderly dog. She doesn't want to be bothered, and me selfishly thinking like, oh, my dog is aging, like the thought of coming home to an empty house, like I can't handle that. Maybe it is time for me to get another dog. I felt so selfish, I struggled a lot with that. I also definitely had the puppy blues, which felt a lot like postpartum. Not that I know what postpartum feels like, but how my friends described it, I was like, yeah, I definitely have some type of postpartum, but it doesn't make sense because my hormones haven't changed. Like, I didn't actually give birth. It's called the puppy blues. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's just this period of time when you get a new puppy where you feel really, really down, defeated, and just depressed overall. And I think that it just didn't help with the fact that I was already in a pretty poor mental state. And then getting the puppy, it's just a lot to deal with. She has kind of grown out of that puppy phase. Well, she's still a puppy, but she's not like chewing up my sneakers anymore or waking up multiple times throughout the night. That was another thing. Like, she was getting up every 2 to 3 hours. So you mix that with having a noisy neighbor. Like, I wasn't sleeping at all. So I got her in July, and that didn't really improve until like January or February of this year. I'm telling you, like, it was pretty bad for a long. She was also going through this biting phase. Like, it was bad, but I could not picture my life without her now. She is such a character. She has her own personality, which I think is so cute. She just completes my little family, at least for now, and I just love her so much. So cheers to Mila, who came into the room again because she knows I'm talking about her. Moving on, I do want to incorporate some of the questions that you guys have asked. I have inserted the little question box on Instagram. I've done it a few times, and every time it freezes on me, and then you guys get upset that I never actually make the videos where I'm like answering your questions. But literally every time it freezes on me, and like I'll get a ton of questions the first hour, and then I won't get any for the next 23, and my views won't go up at all. It's like the weirdest thing. But anyway, you guys pretty much ask the same thing. I can't blame you. I've been so open about this in the past, so I don't know how open I'm going to be about it in the future, like moving forward. But one of the most asked questions is if I'm single or if I'm dating, and the answer is yes, I'm single. I was talking to somebody towards the end of last year very briefly. 2 of my friends set me up with somebody, and I kid you not, when I got set up with this man, I was like, that's it. I found my person. He was so handsome. He seemed like he had his life together. And then I quickly realized that we were so incredibly incompatible. Thought I met my soulmate, and God was like, you thought. You really thought. I'll give you that. You really thought. And I'm at this stage in my life where I don't want to waste my time with the wrong person. Back in the day, I had all the time in the world. Like, you want to tussle in the grass? I'm with it. You want to block and unblock each other all day? I got nothing but time, but now I'm dating to marry. I'm not dating for funsies, so that type of stuff doesn't interest me, doesn't entertain me. I am looking for stability and peace, and if you cannot offer that to me, best of luck to you. But then I just took a little break after that from dating. I couldn't even think about dating after that. I was like so turned off at the idea of like another talking stage or like getting to know somebody. I'm like, please God, I don't have it in me anymore. And it wasn't until recently that I started to warm up to the idea again. I don't know how open I'm going to be about dating moving forward. I don't know. I just always think the next guy that I date could be my husband. He could be the father of my kids. Do I really want to be putting him on blast like that? I mean, I'll put everyone on blast that did me dirty back in the day. I don't owe you okay? And you shouldn't have played in my face. When it comes to my relationships now and men that I could potentially grow with, I don't know what that's gonna look like. I really feel like I'm gonna be one of those women that hide their entire pregnancy and then just pop out with a picture of little feet. I feel like that's going to be me. I don't think that I'm going to be even hinting anymore at me talking to anybody, because I used to, you know, give a little tattoo. I might post a little tattoo. I might post an arm or a watch, you know, maybe some matching sneakers, but now I don't care to do all of that. I'm just looking for my person. But the important thing is I'm not giving up. And that's one thing I've always admired about myself. No matter how many times I get hurt or heartbroken, I always get back up on the horse and try again. And this time will be no different. Your girl just needed a break. Your girl needed a break. I get asked all the time about my ex Nelson, specifically if I heard about his accident. And let me just tell you this, okay? My industry is very, very small and it's very, very tight knit. I guarantee you before you've heard about it, I've known about it for quite some time. And I say this with so much love in my heart. You will never get info before I do, ever. Unless I'm being cheated on, then everybody knows except for me. He called me from the hospital. So yeah, I heard about the accident. I didn't know the details of the accident until you guys did, months later when everyone got all upset. And I'm not gonna get into that right now. That's not my story to tell. And I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to say anything about the accident or speak on it at all. This was his story, his journey. It still is. But I will say that I had trouble coping with it and being there for him, because at that time we were on good terms. We were not together by any means. We were talking as friends when he got into the accident. So of course I found out right away. But when he did get into the accident, and then when I found out the details of the accident, I basically had PTSD of things that had happened in our relationship, and I was like, oh my God, that could have been me. Things that I have spoken very publicly about on national TV, i.e. Dr. Phil. These are stories that I have talked about, so this is nothing new. So for me, it was hard to cope with what had happened and to wrap my mind around the fact that I didn't leave when I did. That could have been me. And not that night, I'm just speaking in general, because there were situations where people were driving when they should not have been. With that being said, I have so much love for Nelson. He knows this. I've let him know. We've had conversations about it, but for my own mental health and for the sake of whoever my future partner is, Nelson cannot be in my life. I will always have an immense amount of love for Nelson despite everything we've been through. This is somebody that I once shared a life with. But I do wish Nelson the very, very best, and I look forward to see what he does with this second chance at life that he's been given. Okay, my camera just died for the third time. And the dogs are very antsy right now, so I'm gonna try to get through. I'm gonna try to rapid fire answer the rest of these most asked questions. Another question that I get all the time is, when will you be back on the challenge? Why haven't you been on the challenge? Which is so weird, because I feel like it's one of the shows that I appeared the absolute least on. There's a long story and a short story. The short story is the main casting producer at that time, I don't know if she still is the main casting person or producer or whatever, she didn't like me. She just didn't like me, which was really interesting because I have never been on a set where I wasn't loved or felt appreciated. She didn't want me on the challenge, which is totally fine. Rejection for me is redirection. I was contacted for a few seasons post Final Reckoning, but I think it was just like a formality thing so they can keep their options open in case anybody else dropped out. I remember there was one text that I got from her. She asked me, she was asking Johnny for my number. I had changed my number at one point. My ex leaked my number. My life is a joke. Then she asked me if I was available to film. I said I would love to, except I'm not 100% comfortable filming with my ex. And she's like, well, you know I can't tell you who's gonna... I know that, but I feel like there should be exceptions to the rule when there's domestic stuff happening. And then she just never contacted me again after that. And I feel like the challenge out of all of the shows I've done really cater to the men. And if it was gonna be between me and him, they're gonna go with him. They also have built more of a relationship with him, but I just found it was interesting timing, them contacting him right after I did Dr. Phil, like outlining everything that had happened, all of the threats that were made, and then they were like, yeah, we want him back on the challenge, actually. Let's bring him back. And I honestly, after I thought I did so good on Final Reckoning that I thought I was going back, I had talked to other producers that were like, yeah, we'll see you next season. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, it just wasn't your time. Rookies always have it the hardest. You'll be fine. I knew for sure I wasn't ever coming back when unfollowed me on Instagram. She actually unfollowed me and Faith at the same exact time, and I was like, okay, like I'm not coming back to the challenge. So I will never say never, but probably never. I also get asked all the time if I would ever do baddies, and the answer is no. I'm a 33-year-old woman, and I know some of the girls on the show are my age. Some of them are even older than me. At the stage I'm at in my life, I have fought so hard to get away from that BGC stigma that first of all, I would never go back to that and have to like fight for my life, but also physically fight for my life. Girl, I would get my ass beat. I would get my ass beat, and I just can't be doing that. I feel like BGC was a very controlled set, and Baddies doesn't give control to as many security as they want to hire. I feel like, yeah, I love watching though. It's one of my favorite shows to watch. Would I ever do it? Fuck no. But shout out to Natalie Nunn though, because she built a empire off of BGC, and she's giving girls the opportunity to even be more successful than some of the BGC girls, honestly. Like, they're really blowing up. So I'm really happy for her, and I'm happy that Bad Girls Club is still alive, honestly, because she revived it. You guys ask me about my sister all the time and if I have a relationship with her. The answer in short is I do not currently, but she's living in Vegas right now. She is doing well from what I'm hearing, and that's all I could ask for. There are certain things that have transpired over the years that I will never talk about because I don't want to put her business out there. I don't care what our relationship looks like. And if that makes me the bad guy at the end of the day, and if everybody hates me and, you know, whatever, that's fine. I still won't put that part of my life on blast. I just won't do it. Is that it? Did I answer all of your questions? I'm a little tipsy right now. I've been drinking in between the camera dying. I think that's all I want to talk about. And if I didn't, there will be plenty more videos coming. Do you have any questions that I have not answered in this video? Drop them down below and you might see it answered in a future video or a vlog. I'm gonna go eat to soak up some of this wine, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.